Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to the channel. I am so happy that you are joining Molly and I today. We're doing an outdoor garden tour, and a lot of you guys have seen my front porch and my front garden area come together, but I haven't shared much about my side garden and even the backyard garden and a lot of the courtyard area. That hasn't been something I've been featuring. It has been a work in progress, and recently had few people comment asking to see an update on how things are going in the garden. So you guys, we're going to start here beside my kitchen window. These are some very large pots that I have that are flanking the garden on the side of my kitchen here, because we have some pipes from the plumbing in the house and some concrete foundation that I cannot plant into, and so those pots are set on top of where the concrete is underground. That way I give a little bit of height and a little bit of color without having to disturb any of the underground foundation or plumbing. So in this pot, you can see my mums are absolutely going crazy. I got to do some deadheading, but for the most part, these things are just thriving here in this space. I have two different types of caladium. It looks like I have something eating it, but I've got one that's more red and green and then one that's more pink and white. And I really like that color combination for the summer. These pentas, they've been in this pot for years. Pentas in my area do so well. I am in garden zone 9B, and I know they're supposed to be annuals in most areas, but here they're perennial. So year after year, I just trim them back in the spring and give them a good dosing of some plant food, and they just get larger and larger. And that's what I've got down here as well. These are some more white pentas that are just like the ones that are in the pot. These are brand new though. I just purchased these this season. So I'm hoping they will kind of, flush out and grow together and make it look like just a little flowering hedge here on the corner. And then I've got another mum there that is doing pretty well. It doesn't look as happy as the one in the pot. I think it needs some food, to be honest with you. And then back here, I've got these blush pink Nandina. I used to have these in the front section of my garden, the front of my house rather, and they did not do well there. I didn't think they were getting enough sun. So I moved them over here, and they are dwarf variety, so I'm not sure how much larger they're gonna get. But I love that the new growth comes in this purpley red, and then it fades to green. I think that's really, really pretty. And I have a couple of Angelonia here. This is the Angelonia that I had shown in a recent video, and it was not doing well. It did need some plant food, and as you can see now, it's beginning to bloom. It's gonna have these really pretty purple circular blooms that open up into the most dainty and delicate, adorable flowers. I love Angelonia. Everything here in the garden, guys, is perennial to me. Angelonia usually are also designated as annuals, but these two Angelonia have been here year after year. First I had them in pots, and now I have them in the ground, and they are just still going. I was worried I had lost them this year, but they're coming back. And then this actually is my Super Bells Bordeaux that I had in a pot, and I neglected it in the pot. So it was not doing well. I trimmed it back and put it in the ground, and you can see, you guys, plants are so resilient. It's already starting to flush out new growth here. So I may have to trim it again just to fill out the middle, because you can see the middle is not doing so well here, but the outer edges where I did the trimming is already starting to come back. So we're gonna get some blooms, and I think that will be really pretty once it comes back. Now, you guys saw me put this arrangement together in a video in the early spring. These are the Calibrachoa. They are variegated. I've trimmed this back a couple of times now. This thing is just doing really well here, and from the inside of my kitchen, this is where my sink is. It is so pretty to look out the window and see these glorious yellow and white blooms. I've really been enjoying having this window box set up here. And sometimes it's fun to do a window box in varying colors and plant styles, but there's just something about using one type of plant when it fills out it's just beautiful. So I've been really enjoying that. Over here in this large pot, we have a king's mantle. It does need to be trimmed. I tend to wait until the blooms are done before I do the trimming because all of the blooms come in on the new growth. But I did trim the front in the early spring before blooms came on, and I already have some rogue stems that are sticking out to the side. And this thing is just so pretty. I love the yellow and purple color combination. I think that is gorgeous. It brings such a cottage vibe, such a beautiful whimsical pop of color. So I'll probably be trimming these tall stalks down just a bit. I want it to fill out and eventually get tall, but first I want it to have a nice shape. And so once the blooms are done, I'll trim this into maybe either a cylinder shape or maybe like a rectangular shape, so that as it continues to grow upward, it will cover that wire box there behind it. And then just another penta here in the front corner. This one's doing fairly well. Also, I just gave it some more food, so hopeful that we'll get even more blooms as the summer goes on. You guys, I know they're perennial here like I had mentioned, but I tell you what, if you live in zone 9B, they require a ton of water. Pentas are definitely thirsty flowers, so keep that in mind if you're going to be using these in the summer. As a perennial, if you want it to stay and you want it to come back year after year, it definitely is going to need that extra boost of water. And then this is a sage. Now, I bought this years ago, and it's finally blooming again. I trimmed it down, and I had it in the ground. I moved it into this pot because I wanted it to be here next to the door. I don't actually remember if this is a Russian or a Texas sage, but it does bloom in the summer. It's got these really pretty soft purple blooms, and then the leaves themselves are quite soft. Also, they almost feel like lamb's ear. So, you know, if you're a plant person and you know what this is it Russian or Texas sage? I would love to know in the comments below. Okay, now we're going to move over to this section of the yard, and I've got one more pot here, and this is similar but not identical to the two that are up front. I've got more mums here, and then I also have another penta, and then instead of the caladiums, I've got a boxwood in here. I had many boxwoods in my garden, but they all died. This was the only one that survived. So about 2 or 3 years ago, I stuck it in this pot, and I've been watering it and feeding it and trimming it. I may end up putting it in the garden, but I kind of like having it here just in the pot for a little bit of height and fullness in the back. I've got 2 more little caladiums down here in this pot that are just starting to come back for the summer. You know, these are bulbs, so they retreat into the ground when the cooler weather comes. And then this section here is new. I actually just put this in. If you guys saw my outdoor projects video, I'll link it below if you haven't, but you'll realize that we used to have a door here. We covered that over and finally got the siding put back up. And once that was done, I wanted to have just a small garden here. I have the similar issue with the foundation, the concrete underneath, so that's why I have these 2 pots here. I don't think I'm going to keep this monkey grass in these pots. I think I want to go with something a little bit more maybe tall, maybe like, I don't know, some sort of like a pencil, sky pencil. What are those called? I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. But they're sort of tall and thin, and I think that would bring a little bit of height here to this wall, which is needed. And then just some more white pentas. And then in the back there in the center, this is purple fountain grass. I had this over on the other side of my garden, and I moved it here. It's doing pretty well now that it's here. It's getting a lot of sun and a lot of water. And I just love these little shoots that it sends up. They start out purple, and they stay purple pretty much the entire time that they are in bloom. And then once the stalk starts to fade, it turns into this really gorgeous sort of neutral beige, almost like a bunny tail. And these are great for decorating in the fall, so I love having these here in the garden. Such pretty interest and texture. Now, before we head over to the other side of the garden, I wanted to show you just a few of my favorite moments here on this side garden. Now, you guys, on this side of this little courtyard in the front, I've got a bunch going on in this little section. I've got some more calibrachoa here. These are not variegated, and I love that pop of yellow. In the back of the pot here, we've got a variegated arbicola. Love that green and yellow color combination. It's a little bit tropical, and I kind of like that. Just that punch of you know, like a lush look mixed in with my cottage thing that I've got trying to go on here. And then this is just a pink geranium. How stunning is it to see the pink matched in with that yellow and green? So pretty. And this thing has been doing really well since I put it here. Some of you guys who have been regular viewers may remember that I had a red geranium here, and I had mentioned that I thought it was pink, but when it started to bloom it was red, and I just really didn't like it. So I took that out and moved that red one somewhere else, and now I've got this beautiful setup with the pink and yellow, and I love it. And then down here I've got this hydrangea. A lot of people have told me in the past that in zone 9B, especially in the humidity of Florida, their hydrangeas do not do well. I've got this one here in the pot, and then I've got another one here. This one has a little bit more of like a tropical look, and I love the two different styles. I actually bought these on clearance at Lowe's. I think I paid like, I don't know, $2.99 for the plants. They were pretty much done. They were dead and, well, dying, obviously not dead, and I brought them back just by giving them a lot of water and just keeping care with them. But I will tell you, if you're going to try to grow hydrangeas in the heat of Florida, you're definitely going to want to put them in a place where they don't receive sun after the noon hour, and you want to make sure you do not water them while the sunlight is on them. The leaves will burn. They also are heavy feeders, and they need a lot of water, especially when they're in bloom. And then I have some celosia here. These are annuals. They're fading out. You can see something's been chomping on them. And then a foxtail fern here in the front corner. I've got another one in a pot. I think I'm going to put this hydrangea where the foxtail fern is and move this to a different section. But that is the tour of the front garden, and then now we'll go around back and take a look at the back garden off of the patio. Okay, so on the back side of the house, everything looks a little bit different. These giant bougainvillea kind of block the view. I love these things. They're gorgeous, but they do need a lot of maintenance. They grow prolifically, and I've already got to trim them again. I just trimmed them, and you can see already that their blooms and their stalks are already shooting out and shading a lot of these sun-loving plants. So in the front here, I've got a bunch of white begonias. They are doing fairly well. I think I have something chomping on them. The edges kind of look like they've been munched, and they've got some holes in the leaves, but overall they still are doing pretty well. And then I've got this really pretty dianthus back here. It's funny because this dianthus actually was just one plant. This one right here that I'm showing you wasn't here when this garden was set up. I planted that one, and probably within 2 months of that one being here, it had grown so large that I just dug it up, separated the root ball, and planted the second half of it here just to spread it out. And then I actually have been able to do that one other time. And so now I have 3 here where there was only 1. And that is something that I really love about gardening, is when you buy one plant that does well in your area, you can get so much out of it. And it's just so much fun to see how you can stretch your dollar and also find beautiful color combinations for your garden area. So we've got so many lovely blooms here. This is such a pretty addition to the porch, especially when we're sitting out here having dinner, or if we are entertaining. Having these beautiful purple blooms are just such a really, really pretty backdrop. I have been loving them. I don't necessarily understand why this bougainvillea, which is the same age and the same type and receives the same conditions, isn't as much in bloom as that other one. I mean, that one has just taken off, it's taken over, and then this one here is kind of it's just trailing a little bit. It's not struggling. I would say it's doing fine. You know, it's got blooms, and the greenery is still pretty deep, but you know, I just don't necessarily understand the conditions. I had said that in a previous video once too. It's just, you know, plants are funny sometimes, so I just got to figure it out. And then back here, I do have a rose in this pot that I had recently had some really lovely blooms on, and since then I have cut them off. And you know, with roses, you've got to understand that once the blooms are done and you cut them off, you got to wait a little bit for the new growth to come on. But if you treat it right, it always does. Well, guys, that's going to do it for the garden outdoor tour today. I hope you enjoyed seeing how my Zone 9B garden is coming along. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.